You may be irritated by the title, Spend More to Save More, because we learn the contrary, right? To spend less so we can save more. That means spend less on clothes, spend less on food, spend less on insurances. But actually, there are ways to save more money by spending more money. Let's look at them. I want to walk you through 3 different categories, and within each category we have different tips of how to spend more to save more. Alright, let's dive in. So category number 1 is health. Now, I just came across a study in the US. The study was about cancer survivors, and it turns out that their risk after their disease to go bankrupt is much higher compared to people without cancer. And that is because cancer treatments are so expensive, so that in the end the disease doesn't just drain them physically and mentally and emotionally, but also financially. And at the same time, they often cannot keep working to maintain their income stream, right? And that's the reason why health insurance here is a case of spend more to save more, and that is save more in the future. Because health insurance covers treatments that can literally save you from bankruptcy. And even when you think you're healthy and this doesn't happen to you, when I was still working in the hospital and I was on the intensive care unit, I learned that just a few days spent on the intensive care unit, for example, because someone has been in an accident, this can cost multiple 5 figures up to 6 figures. Health-related costs are just really expensive. And that, by the way, is also a reason why health insurance is not a cheap insurance. Health insurance is rather expensive, but it's nothing compared to the actual health costs that might come up. So, health insurance, absolutely worth it because it saves you money in the long run, even may save you from bankruptcy. So health insurance is particularly important, but this applies to other insurances as well, like for example, liability insurance or disability insurance, because those insurances also cover cases that would have the potential to bankrupt us. A way to spend more money to save more money, also within the category of health, is health checkups. Now I get it, they cost a little more in the moment, unless your insurance pays for them. But those checkups can prevent higher costs later. Because believe me when I say a general rule in medicine is the earlier you spot something, the better. Because usually the better it's treatable. And usually also the less the procedure costs. A classical example would be caries. Imagine you just have a small caries that gets discovered during a dental checkup. And they immediately fix it, which can mean that you prevented some bigger damage of the tooth later on. And what I would also like to mention within the category of health is food. Because health and food are related. That's no news, we already know that. Even though we don't know all the details yet. But for example, processed, low-quality food might be convenient in the moment. Convenient as in affordable at the moment and also time-saving because you don't have to cook. And I really get it because I don't like cooking at all. But in this particular case, putting healthy food into my body is actually more important to me. And I know that processed food has little nutritional value and it only hurts my body in the long run. In fact, I just read an article about food additives like coloring or preservation or flavoring. And those additives have been shown to negatively impact our gut health. For example, through inflammation. So especially when you live in an area where fresh vegetables and fruit and non-processed meat is more expensive than fast food, then first of all, I think this is very sad. But second of all, it's definitely worth it to go for the healthier food and spend a little more money, if that helps keeping your body healthy in the long run. By the way, I also just made a video about how to save money on groceries. You'll find it in the video description to watch later. Alright, and that brings us to the next category where we can spend more to save more, and that is maintenance. And here let's start with home repairs. Now, if you're a lender, this won't matter as much because your landlord should take care of most of the things. But if you are or plan to be a homeowner, then definitely getting something small fixed right away also costs money in the short term, but it can save a ton of money later on. Because ignoring something small then compounds into something bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point it will cost a fortune to fix it. And I'd say that especially applies for things that have to do with water and or electricity. Because no one cares about a broken doorknob as long as the door is in the house and it's not, the door to outside. But you know what I mean. But really not getting something small fixed in the beginning can just multiply the costs later on. Next up is car repairs. When I still had a car, I didn't have a garage for the car, so it was always parked outside. And that means it was exposed to the weather all year. Heat, rain, snow, frost, then also leaves from trees and stuff. And I mean, my car overall was still driven for 14 years. But actually, I can imagine that if I would have been able to keep it in a garage, that would have elongated its lifespan even more. Not that you should keep your car that long, but either way. When you take care of repairments right away, like really relevant repairments, then this can save you money later on. Because here again, usually getting something small fixed is less expensive than getting something big fixed. And this can even lead to a higher selling price in the end when you want to sell your car. Because my car in the end was so damaged that I didn't get a lot of money for it anymore. I think the sweet spot between buying a car and selling a car is buying it between 1 and 3 years old and then driving it for 5, 7, 8 years and then sell it again because you can still get a decent selling price. But I go more into detail about this in another video. I'll also link it down below in the video description. Okay, another area to spend more to save more is home security. I don't think I have to explain that. Skipping basic home security can lead to a massive damage. Like for example, someone breaks in, takes everything, or takes half of it and destroys the rest, and then insurance doesn't cover it because you didn't have the minimum requirements. So those are things that are just avoidable. All right, and another one where spending more money can save you money is with high quality items. I love this one because it's actually my shopping philosophy. And that goes especially for things that you use over and over again for decades. Let's take, for example, a washing machine or an oven. Now, this may sound a little boring, and I understand the temptation to go for the cheapest. But when you really think about it, those are rather expensive items. And when you save a few bucks, but then you can use it only for 3 years, instead of, for example, 10 or more, then that's not a good trade-off, right? So I suggest that you do not look too closely at the price when buying those things. And I have a specific example because there is a German brand who makes washing machines. They're called Miele. As far as I know, they are like the state of the art on the market, and their washing machines hold like 10 years, 20, even 30 years. And additionally to that, they are very efficient regarding water, regarding electricity. They're also taking good care of your clothes, which means you can hold on longer to them than with maybe more aggressive washing machines. And this is like a ripple effect, right? So this can pay off not just in one area, but in several areas of the household. So buying high quality items and taking good care of them definitely is a way to spend more to save more. And now our third category is education. Now I have one direct example where spending more can save you more money, and that is when you learn about negotiation. Because when you, for example, take a course and you pay money for that course to learn negotiation, that can save you so much money throughout the course of your life. I haven't done it yet, but it's definitely on my list. Because when you start a habit to negotiate prices, just by asking, negotiating at your job can bring you a higher salary, negotiating at stores can give you better prices. So the opportunities to save money here are endless. And there's also an indirect way to spend more money, to save more money in education. And that is when you spend money to do a certificate, or you take an online course, or you even buy a book, a non-fiction book. Then this money is gone in the moment, but the things that you learn from that, like for example from the certificate, might again help you make more money. Same goes for online courses and books. By investing money in your skills, you can make that money back tenfold, if not more. Same goes for when you spend money on the education of your children. Then you might also benefit from that later on. So you see where I'm going with this. When spending money on education, there is a positive return. And now that you know where to spend more money to save more money, next you can also get some inspiration where to spend less money to save more money. I will link a video for you here. Thank you for watching. I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.